up.
Discover the healing potential.
There's more, and we are here to find it.
Of your mind. We'll do that one more time.
Questions.
What is consciousness?
Join our member-supported community of curiosity seekers. Start your trial.
You left the Corvette full of papers.
Well, yes, there was several stories. One was I fled to Mexico, which I never do, because why would I go to Mexico? Their food is,
Why?
But
where
the one
was
story is I was in Canada. And
where was the Corvette found?
Corvette was found on a winding road called Nicholas Canyon. And
you had rented it?
No, I own it.
You own it.
There was a lot of misinformation about this situation. And my security guard was driving me home from my recording session. We were remaking a song called Highway to Hell, of all songs. And what happened is we were coming out of the corner and the wheels hydroplaned out from under us. It's kind of a slick curve. And we went up the side of a mountain and we ended up between this pole. And a car came by behind us and they broke out the window and got us both out. And fortunately, we had seatbelts on, and then the only scratch I had was this. And we went up and called AAA, which is on the records. So,
You know what? The police found it later.
well, they were there in like 10 to 15 minutes, and
Then what was the big deal?
then the thing was like, yes, Kennison sought for investigation, and the abandoned automobile. I was like,
Yeah, that's
anybody
what I read.
else would have been just
Or do you react angrily when something like that? I mean, that's
that's
a
the price of fame, I guess, or looking like somebody that would be a troublemaker, which I'm not. Mild-mannered, calm guy.
So in other words, if you want to play this game, that's the results you got to get.
Yeah, I mean, if you look like you're, lead guitarist for Motley Crue, you're gonna look like that. So,
Were you a serious minister?
yeah, I was. I just have kind of a relationship with God. It's kind of like Colonel Sanders' fried chicken. It's got several secret herbs and spices.
Why did you leave it? That was a good
I
money
became-
maker, wasn't it?
I became disillusioned. I was never into the offering side of it. I'd pull out a basket and I'd say, hey, if I blessed you and you want to bless me, here's the basket. I didn't do very well, actually.
You were not a good minister.
No. Well, not financially. I didn't rake in the bucks. This is before the big satellite boom. You can have your own TV station, your own channel.
And you left it, why? Because it wasn't proving fruitful?
Well, I got a divorce, and it was like 1978. And I sat my family down Christmas time and said, I'm leaving the ministry. And they thought I was going through a phase. And they said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to be a comedian. They went, yeah, sure. I said, no, really. I'm going to try to be a stand-up comic. I think I can make people laugh. I've made them laugh in church, and if you can make people laugh in church, you can make them laugh anywhere, I think.
Do you like your image?
Yeah, I do.
How would you describe it? I mean,
It's very ominous, actually. A lot of people don't know a lot about it. Me. This is maybe the most candid I've been, I think, in any interview.
I'm glad to hear that. People get afraid of you, or people say, Sam Kinnison's on tonight. Someone said to me, Sam Kinnison's on tonight. I said, looking forward to it. No, but I mean, like, they acted out of fear.
I wonder why I had to go through that metal detector and I was frisked.
That I should be concerned you would do something bizarre?
I don't understand that, because I've done Letterman, I've done Carson,
I know,
I've done
so why
Married
does
with
it-
Children. Anything I've ever done, I'm always working in the boundaries of.
I know.
And but they think I'm going to say, some of those words that you shouldn't say or something like that. But I'm a little smarter than that.
You're a professional.
Yeah, I respect the medium, whatever it is.
Are you happy?
Yeah. I had some tragedy in my life about a year and a half ago, but I'm dealing with it pretty well. My little brother passed away, and it's kind of
This album, Leader of the Band.
Yeah.
This is music.
One half of it is, and the other half is, I think, my most. I think it's my best work. I think it's my best work as a stand-up yet.
Recorded where?
At Bally's in Las Vegas.
Oh, that big house then.
Yeah, I wanted to do an album in Las Vegas, a comedy album. I don't know when the last time a comedian has actually recorded in
Well,
a
I bet it's
casino.
been 25 years.
I bet it has. And
Let's go back to early big Vegas days.
And I thought this is a kind of interesting angle, And plus, I was, I make a joke about being family entertainment, of course, which I'm not. But,
And on the music side, are you doing voiceovers?
I'm singing it. Yeah.
Where's the other singer?
I'm the singer. I can sing.
We'll take some calls for Sam Kinison, Lakeside, Iowa. Hello.
Sam, you're probably one of the funniest comedians I've ever heard. But I feel guilty once in a while laughing at your bizarre stories like playing a corpse in a mortuary. Where do you draw the line on the lewdness of your jokes?
Well, that particular joke was actually a true story that I was told out here by a limo driver for a funeral home. And when he told it to me, it just blew my mind. It was like one of the most horrifying images I've ever had. It never occurred to me somebody would do that to a corpse after they were dead. And it just stuck, it hung with me for a couple of weeks.
So you decided to tell it.
And I thought, wait a second, how can I get the audience to feel that same shock thing and then pull a joke out of it? It took about a year and a half to find an angle where you could actually pull a joke out of it, which was to take the corpse's point of view and go, oh, hey.
Sam Kinnison's our guest. Yes, that's a good one.
That was close. It was close.
Corpses.
Anti-gay humor that Sam tells is something that he just does for humor, or whether it's a reflection of his own person.
Fair question, Sam.
Well, it's definitely part of our society. I made one joke and I said that they say heterosexuals die of AIDS too. Name one. And I throw the mic out in the audience. It's like capital Vermont.
Vermont.
Yeah, just like one of those things. And I thought it was like, a reasonable joke. A step towards family entertainment.
Heterosexuals die of it too. Name one.
Yeah.
And off that one joke, you are known as a gay basher.
I became a gay basher, and all of a sudden I was,
Are you saying that
targeted by these anti-heterosexual groups and
anti-heterosexual? Do you now do more gay humor because?
No, matter of fact, in my next album, I did some medically correct jokes because they said my jokes weren't medically correct in my last album. Which I remember when I went to medical school to write jokes, that was one of the big rules. Was not to do any medically incorrect jokes. So my next album has medically correct jokes about AIDS.
Anaheim, California. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
Sam, I think in your routines, your social commentary is great, and I hope a lot of people really pick up on it as much as I hope they do.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask you what you thought about Andrew Dice Clay and what happened at the MTV Awards and that whole mishap and him being banned. Do you think that he really didn't act appropriately, or
what do you think, Sam?
I think he was very unprofessional, and I think he's a jerk. I've known him for about 10 years, and I think he's like the Morton Downey Jr. of comedy. He'll be a big mouth for about a year, and then he'll burn out. There's not a lot of love between us. He ripped off some of my jokes, and all you have to do is play my album from 1986 and his current album, and you can find 2 or 3 jokes that I did back years ago, and all he did was reiterate them. So I can't wait for his career to die out like Larry Storch.
Larry Storch. Other than that, you're crazy about this guy, right?
Yeah, other than that.
And what he did was unprofessional.
Is
there
very
anything you like about him?
No, nothing.
Okay.
I mean, he's like a combination of, he took Fonzie's jacket, Stallone's attitude, and my jokes and put them in a blender. And
That's
it.
it.
So I don't care much.
Are you still in love with Jessica Hahn? Were you ever in love with Jessica Hahn?
I was never in love. We had a short affair because checkout time was 2. But, well, she's an interesting person.
She's not dull.
Not dull.
We'll return with Sam Kinison.
Yeah, Sam. You want to talk about who's wide?
Well, nobody said I was thin.
Hey,
Nobody
listen,
said I was thin.
Sam, let me just remind you.
I don't even want to talk to you.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
So we both agree never to speak to each other again.
Hold on, Sam. What do you wish to say, Jessica? Hold on, Jessica.
Larry, I mean, the guy goes into Las Vegas. He does a 10-minute act to me. He slanders me. You can expect a call from my lawyer. Yes, Sam, you don't want
to be a liar.
Yeah, you're a spineless, talentless has-been. You talk about Dice. Dice will make it way before you do, Sam.
Good. Anything else, Sam?
What went wrong between you two?
His big mouth.
Sam.
Well, let's not talk about big orifices of the body.
Hey, let me tell you something, Larry. When my mother died, the guy got on the phone and started screaming at me over the air on the Howard Stern show. And, the guy has no class. And, I mean, I thought he was a great comedian, but anymore, his stuff is old. Your material's old. You're old.
Listen, why don't you find a life?
Why don't you find a life?
Leave me and Jim Baker alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Why don't you
get a career? Get on a soap opera or something. All you do is kiss and tell. That's your whole life.
No, Sam, that's what you do
that's
on
your whole
stage.
life, Jessica. Get a job.
Sam,
Go
you
to
make
car wash.
You make thousands of dollars.
Be a cashier at a car wash or something. Do something constructive.
Sam, you make thousands.
Instead of making all this money kissing and telling.
Larry, he makes thousands. Larry, he makes hundreds of thousands of dollars
I want to spend a lot of time
using other people's problems. is for his material.
in LA. Just keep going, Jessica.
He
Thank you,
uses,
Sam.
he uses
Thank you, Larry.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Jessica.
Thank you,
Sam.
Jessica.
Thank you, Sam.
All the memories.
You have a business. And with YouTube, you can open your door to half the world's internet users while only connecting with the viewers most interested in you. Bring your story to life with YouTube.
We are back. The first time I saw Sam Kinison perform, somebody brought a tape into my office. I laughed so hard, I was hysterical, because it was absolutely outrageous. But Sam, believe it or not, has undergone a transformation, because somebody brought a tape in the other day and said, I want you to hear this. And I didn't know who was singing from him, because it was that good. He's a fine singer. And Sam's going, yeah, that's true. And there's a ventriloquist up in the audience there. And he's going to be performing this weekend at Bally's in Las Vegas. He's got a new single coming out. Would you welcome, please, Sam Kinison?
Are you lonesome tonight? Do you miss me tonight? Are you sorry we drifted apart? Does your memory stray to a bright summer day when I kissed you and called you sweetheart? Do the chairs in your parlor seem empty and bare? Do you gaze at your doorstep and picture me there? Is your heart filled with pain? Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? You know, I wonder if you're lonesome tonight. I wonder a lot of things. Like, are you human? How do you live with yourself? Are you a reptile with a nice hairdo? You stinky tramp! You lied to me! You told me you love me, you never loved me! You said forever, remember that one? Oh, there's a joke, forever! Yeah, what does forever mean to you? Till another guy comes into your life with more money and a better car. Oh, I'm sorry, we better break up. I'm not growing as a person. We need to get away from each other. Oh, that was a great idea. Yeah, let's break up, honey. Did you grow any? Are you any taller? I'll tell you what you learned how to break my heart. But I'd rather go off here in your lives than anyone live without you. That's how sick I am. Well, I'm standing here. The stage is bare. Oh, I can't say it. You know what you did. You know what you did. You were wrong. Say it, you stupid, stubborn pig. I was wrong. So hard, filled with pain. Shall I come back again? Tell me, dear, are you lonesome tonight? I hope Is that romance?
That really brings a tear to your eyes.
Does that take you back?
That's what love is all about.
You know the funny thing is, there's like 7 girls out there right now that think I'm talking directly to them. Every one of them's going, I know it's me. I know he's saying that to me.
Sam, you are deeply disturbed. You know, when somebody brought me that tape, I'll be honest with you, I sat there and it started off, it sounded like a young Presley. And then all of a sudden you went into this thing in the middle, and I fell off the couch again. You have a really good voice. I'm not joking.
Well,
Where'd you learn?
I used to sing in church. Hard to believe as it is. That was back there before the big satellite boom. And my parents used to make me sing, but we were goofing around.
You learned in church?
Yeah. I used to be a preacher.
No, I'd heard that.
No. What were you before that? President of your own country, Sam?
What kind of preaching? Were you a fundamentalist Baptist, holy roller type of stuff, or what?
Yeah, Pentecostal.
Yeah.
I guess holy roller. We're like Baptists, except we could get out of our seats, rolling on the floor. So I guess holy rollers are pretty close.
If you were doing some preaching, and this was your congregation,
yeah,
what would you?
Oh, it was very fiery. It was very, I don't know about you, but when I woke up this morning, somebody told me, you don't have to lose. You don't have to be defeated. You can change your life. You know what I'm saying? Guys would see and stuff just when they said, I think I see something's going on here.
It is almost hypnosis, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Why'd you give that up? I mean,
well, I got divorced when I was, I got married when I was 21 to a lovely girl, and I'm sure is watching and thinks she's one of the 7. And,
that's pretty young to get married.
Yeah, I was a dumb no.
Yeah.
And
this didn't work out?
No, I know.
Was that when you were the
strange things to you, but it didn't.
Yeah, I know,
You will learn, great Sam. You will learn.
21's pretty young to get married. Was she young?
Yeah, she was young. She was 19.
Yeah, not show business, huh?
No, man. It's very hard to say some of the things you'd like to say,
well,
Johnny.
Within reason.
Within reason, yeah. I was 23, and I've been ministering for about 5 years, and it wasn't a good thing to have on your spiritual resume.
Yeah.
The marriage hadn't worked out, and I got disillusioned. And I said, "Hey, it's time to go into comedy."
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, nice. It's like people expect me to say I woke up one day and went, "Hey, forget the Bible. Where's the party?"
Did you try it again? Did you try marriage again?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask that one. Yeah, I did.
So you're married now?
No, I just got divorced. I just got divorced. So we actually separated in '82, and we just now got around to getting a divorce.
What?
And she hired Marvin Mitchelson. And I'm a bigger fan of your work now, man. You're the best. Oh, this guy deadly. You never had to go up against him, didn't you?
No, I don't think so.
I remember. I would think you remember. Your Rattlers changing, man.
But those are painful things to go through.
7 years, man.
Painful things.
7 years. It's like I know she didn't know I was going to make it. It wasn't that.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm just going to hold out till you're on the cover of Rolling Stone, and then I'll fight. I know it wasn't that. I was like, how did you work for 7 years?
Luckily, there's no bitterness, though. Huh?
Well, I gotta say the best thing about being married is that it keeps you from getting married.
Huh? Well, that's true.
That's the best thing.
So you're gonna wait a while until you try this again.
Doesn't bail like that, yes. I'm gonna wait a while. I'm living with 2 sisters now.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So career-wise, things are going good, huh?
It's been an interesting year.
You're an interesting guy. Now that stuff I saw on the tape was so hysterical, but it's tough to do. Some of it is it's adult stuff, but it's difficult to transfer that to commercial TV, isn't it?
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people trying to, a lot of the comics lately trying to be even more and more vulgar and profane. So I thought, why not in the middle of all this, turn around, try to do some family entertainment like I just did.
Well, let's just say
see the whole family.
That's right.
Something to bring a tear to Walt Disney's eye.
Good to have you.
Thank you.
We'll take a break. We're coming right back.
How did this hammer get into 400-million-year-old skull? It doesn't stop there.
The ancient DNA they gathered does not match modern human DNA. Our thoughts can alter physical phenomena.
Beginning in 1954, we'd figured out zero-point imaging. It's a high civilization that we had lost track of.
Krishnamurti in dialogue with Dr. Alan W. Anderson. J. Krishnamurti was born in South India and educated in England. For the past 40 years, he has been speaking in the United States, Europe, India, Australia, and other parts of the world. From the outset of his life's work, he repudiated all connections with organized religions and ideologies and said that his only concern was to set men absolutely, unconditionally free. He is the author of many books, among them The Awakening of Intelligence, The Urgency of Change, Freedom from the Known, and The Flight of the Eagle. This is one of a series of dialogues between Krishnamurti and Dr. Alan W. Anderson, who is professor of religious studies at San Diego State University, where he teaches Indian and Chinese scriptures and the oracular tradition. Dr. Anderson, a published poet, received his degree from Columbia University and the Union Theological Seminary. He has been honored with a Distinguished Teaching Award from the California State University.
Mr. Krishnamurti, I was very taken with a recent statement of yours, in which you said that it's the responsibility of each human being to bring about his own transformation, which is not dependent on knowledge or time. And if it's agreeable with you, I thought that it would be a splendid thing to explore together the general area of transformation itself. And after we've done that, perhaps the other related areas would begin to fall into place, and we could bring about in conversation a relationship among them.
Don't you think, considering what's happening in the world, in India, in Europe, and in America, the general degeneration in literature and art, and especially in the deep cultural sense, in the sense religion.
Yes.
There is a traditional approach, more acceptance of authority, belief, which is not really the religious spirit. Seeing all this, the confusion, the great misery, the sense of infinite sorrow, any observant of most serious people would say that the society cannot possibly be changed except only when the individual, the human being, really transforms himself radically, that is, regenerates himself fundamentally. And the responsibility of that depends on the human being, not on the mass or on the priest or on a church or a temple or mosque or whatever, but on a human being who is aware of this enormous confusion, politically, religiously, economically, in every direction. There is such misery, such unhappiness. And when you see that, it is a very serious thing to ask oneself whether a human being like oneself or another, that whether he can really deeply undergo a radical transformation. And when that question is put to him, and when he sees his responsibility in relation to the book, then perhaps we can discuss what relationship has knowledge and time in the transformation of man.
I quite follow. We need then to lay some groundwork in order to move into the question itself.
Because most people are not concerned with the world at all. Most people are not concerned seriously with the events, with the chaos, with the mess in the world at present. They're only concerned very superficially. Problem of energy, problem of pollution, and so on, such superficial. But they're really not deeply concerned with the human mind, the mind that is destroying the world.
Yes, I quite follow. What you've said places in a very cardinal way the radical responsibility on the individual as such, if I've understood you correctly.
Yes.
There are no 5-year plans that we can expect to adopt.
The word individual is not the correct word. Individual, as you know, sir, means undivided, indivisible in himself. But human beings are totally fragmented. Therefore, they are not individual. They may have a bank account, a name, a house, but they're not really individuals in that sense. A total, complete, harmonious whole, unfragmented. That's really what it means to be an individual.
But would you say then that to move or make passage, or perhaps a better word simply would be change, since we're not talking about time, from this fragmented state to one of wholeness, could be regarded as a change in the level of the being of the person?
Yes.
Could we say that?
Yes. But you see, again, the word whole implies not only sanity, health, and also the word whole means holy, H-O-L-Y.
Mm-hmm.
All that's implied in that one word, whole. And human beings are never whole. They're fragmented. They are contradictory. They are torn apart by various desires. So when we talk of an individual, the individual is really a human being who is totally, completely whole, safe, healthy, and therefore holy.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring about such a human being is our responsibility in education, politically, religiously, in every.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore it's the responsibility of the educator, of everybody, not just myself, my responsibility. It's your responsibility as well as mine, as well as his.
It's everyone's responsibility.
Absolutely, because we have created this awful mess in the world.
But the individual is the one who must make the start.
A human being.
Right.
Each human being, doesn't matter whether he's a politician or a businessman or just an ordinary person like me in the street, it's our business as a human being to realize the enormous suffering, misery, confusion there is in the world. And it's our responsibility to change it. Not the politician, not the businessman, not the scientist. It's our responsibility.
When we say our responsibility, and we have two uses of the word individual now, that is the general use of it, meaning a quantitative measure.
Yes, quantitative.
And then this qualitative reference that we've simply needed, it seems to me, to discern as a possibility. I'm reminded again of the statement that you made that I quoted earlier, that it's the responsibility of each human person.
Human being, yes.
Right.
Whether it's in India or in England or in America or wherever it is.
So we can't slip out of this by saying we have created this, therefore we must change it.
No.
We get back to, well, if the change is going to start at all, it's going to be with each.
Yes, sir.
With each.
With each human being. Therefore, the question arises from there. Does a human being realize with all seriousness his responsibility not only to himself but to the whole of mankind?
It wouldn't appear so from the way things go on.
Obviously,
no.
Each one is concerned with his own little petty little selfish desires. So, the responsibility implies tremendous attention, care, diligence, not negligence as now it is going on.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do follow that. The word "we" that we used in relation to each brings about the suggestion of a relationship, which perhaps we could pursue here a moment. There seems to be something indivisible, apparently, between what we refer to by each, or the individual person as the usage is usually construed. Seems to be an indivisible relation between that and what we call the whole, which the individual doesn't sense.
So, as you know, I have been all over the world, except behind the Iron Curtain, that never curtain. I've been all over. And I've seen dozens and thousands of people. I've been doing this for 50 years and more. Human beings, wherever they live, are more or less the same. They have their problems of sorrow, problems of fear, problems of livelihood, problems of personal relationship, problems of survival, overpopulation, and there is this enormous problem of death. It's a common problem for all of us. There is no Eastern problem and Western problem. The West has its particular civilization, and the East has its own. And human beings are caught in this trap.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I follow that.
And they don't seem to be able to get out of it. They're going on and on and on for millennia.
Therefore, the question is, how does he bring this about as an each, as a one? The word individual, as you've just described it, seems to me to have a relationship to the word transform in itself. And I'd like to ask you whether you would agree in this. It seems that many persons have the notion that to transform a thing means to change it utterly without any relationship whatsoever to what it is as such. That would seem to ignore that we are talking about a form that undergoes a change, which form itself still abides.
Yes, I understand.
Otherwise, the change will involve a loss.
So, are we asking this question? What place has knowledge in the regeneration of man, in the transformation of man, in the fundamental, radical movement in man? What place has knowledge, and therefore time?
Fine.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I am. Because either we accept that a change that is a genuine change means the annihilation of what preceded, or we're talking about a total transformation of something that abides.
Yes. So let us look at that word for a minute.
Good.
A revolution, in the ordinary sense of that word, means, doesn't it, not an evolution, gradual evolution. It's the revolution.
No, it doesn't mean that. Right, I agree.
A revolution is generally meant, if you talk to a communist, he wants to overthrow the government. If you talk to a bourgeois, he's frightened. If you talk to an intellectual, he has various criticisms about revolution. Now, a revolution is either bloody,
yes,
or revolution in the psyche.
Yes.
Outward or inner.
Outward or inner.
The outward is the inner. The inner is the outward. There is not the difference between the outer and the inner. They are totally related to each other.
Then this goes back to what you mentioned earlier, that there's no division, even though intellectually you make a distinction between the I and the we.
That's right.
Yeah, of course.
So when we talk about change, we mean not the mere bloody revolution, physical revolution, but rather the revolution in the makeup of the mind
of each
of human being. Right. The way he thinks, the way he behaves, the way he conducts himself, the way he operates, he functions, the whole of that. Now, whether that psychological revolution, not evolution in the sense gradual,
no.
What place has knowledge in that?
What place has knowledge in something?
In the regeneration of man, which is the revolution, the inward revolution,
which
will affect the outer.
Yeah, which is not a gradual progress.
No, obviously. The gradual process is endless.
Exactly. So we're talking about an instant qualitative change.
Again, when you use the word instant, seems as though suddenly it has to happen. I don't, that's why I'm rather hesitant in using the word instant. We'll go into a minute. First of all, so let's be clear what you and I are talking about in a minute. We see objectively the appalling mess the world is in. Right? Yes. The misery, the confusion, the deep sorrow of man.
Oh, yes.
I can't tell you what I feel when I go around the world. The pettiness, the shallowness, the emptiness of all this, of the so-called Western civilization, if I may use that word, into which the Eastern civilization is being dragged into. And we are just scratching on the surface all the time. And we feel the mere change on the surface, changing the structure is going to do something enormous to human beings. On the contrary, it has done nothing. It polishes a little bit here and there, but deeply, fundamentally, it doesn't change that. So, when we are discussing change, we must be, I think, fairly clear that we need the change in the psyche, in the very being of human beings. That is, in the very structure and nature of his thought.
The change at the root.
At the root.
At the root itself.
The root. And therefore, when there is that change, he will naturally bring about a change in society. It isn't society first, individual, or individual first. It is the human change which will transform the society. They are not two separate.
Now, I must be very careful that I understand this precisely. I think I discern now why in the statement you said, which is not dependent on knowledge or time.
Yes.
Because when this person changes, this each human being changes. The change that begins in society is a change that is in a non-temporal relationship with the change in the each human being. Yes.
So, after all, human beings have created this society. By their greed, by their anger, by their violence, by their brutality, by their pettiness, they have created this society.
Precisely.
And they think by changing the structure, you're going to change the human being. This has been the communist problem, this has been the eternal problem. That you change the environment, then you change that. They have tried that in 10 different ways, and they haven't done it, succeeded in changing that. On the contrary, man conquers the environment, the structure. So, if we are clear that the outer is the inner is the outer, that there is not the division, the society and the individual, the collective and the separate human being, but the human being is the whole. He is the society, he is the separate human individual, he is the factor which brings about this chaos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm following that very
He
closely.
is the world, and the world is him.
Yes. Therefore, if he changes,
Everything
changes. If he doesn't change, nothing changes.
I think this is very important because we don't realize, I think, this basic factor that we are the world and the world is us. That the world is something separate from me and me separate from the world. You're born in a culture, Christian or Hindu or whatever culture you're born in, you are the result of the culture.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that culture has produced this world. The materialistic world of the West, if one can call it, which is spreading all over the world, destroying their own culture, their own traditions. Everything is being swept aside in the wake of the Western culture. And this culture has produced this human being. And the human being has created this culture.
Exactly.
And he has created the painting, the marvelous cathedrals, the marvelous technological things going to the moon and so on, so on. It is human beings that created. It's the human beings that have created the Russian society in which we live. It's the immoral society in which we live, which human beings have created.
Oh yes, there's no way to know that.
And therefore, the world is you, you are the world. There is no other. If we accept that, if we see that, not intellectually, but feel it in your heart, in your mind, in your blood, that you are there, then the question, is it possible for a human being to transform himself inwardly and therefore outwardly?
I'm very concerned to see this as clearly as I can in terms of two texts that come to my mind, which we could say possess an inner meaning. And because of this inner-outer thing that we've spoken about in the divided approach that is made to Scripture, there's a tremendous irony here. I'm thinking of that, to me, wonderful text in St. John's Gospel, the 3rd chapter, which says, and I'll try to translate this as the Greek has it, the one who is doing the truth is coming to the light. It isn't that he does the truth and then later he comes to the light. And it isn't that we could say from the pulpit, I will tell you what the truth is. If you do it, then you'll see the light. Because we're back again to what you mentioned earlier, the non-temporal relationship between the action, which itself is the transformation, and the marvelous vista of understanding, which is not an if-then thing, but is truly concurrent. And the other one that I thought of that I was hoping you might agree in saying the same thing, so that I understand it well in terms of what you've said, is, and again I'll try to translate it as literally as I can. God is love, and the one abiding in love is abiding in God, and God is abiding in him. I put the ing on all those words because of the character of the language itself. It doesn't read too well. I wouldn't want to translate that for pulpit reading, perhaps, but that's the real sense of it. And this inging along gives the feeling that there's an activity here. That is not bound by
it isn't a static state. It isn't something you intellectually accepted and leave it. When it's death, there's nothing in it.
Yes.
That's why, you see, sir, we have divided the physical as the East and the West. We have divided religions, Christian religion and Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist. And we have divided the world into nationality. The capitalists, the socialists, the communists, and the other people. So we have divided the world, and we have divided ourselves as Christians or Christians.
Yes.
We have divided ourselves into fragments opposing each other. So where there is a division, there is conflict.
Precisely.
I think that's a basic law.
Where there's a division, there's conflict, but in terms of that word knowledge, it appears that people believe to start with that division is there.
Yes,
and they operate on that radical belief.
That's why I'm saying it's so important to understand from the beginning in our dialogue that the world is not different from the around the world. It may sound rather simple, very simplified, simplistic, but it has got very deep, fundamental meaning if you realize what it means. Not intellectually, but inwardly, the understanding. Therefore, there is no division. The moment I say to myself, and I realize that I am the world and the world is me, I am not a Christian or a Hindu or a Buddhist, nothing. I am a human being.
I was just thinking when you were saying that how certain kinds of philosophical analysis would approach that, and in terms of the spirit of what you've said, this really is almost a cosmic joke, because on the one hand, as you said, it might sound simplistic. Some would say it is. Therefore, we don't have to pay attention. Others would say, well, it's probably so much in want of clarity, even though it's profound, that it's some kind of mysticism out here. And we're back and forth with the division again. I do follow.
So, if that is clear, that there is that human mind has divided the world in order to find its own security, which brings about its own insecurity. When one is aware of that, then one must inwardly as well as outwardly deny this division. As we and they, I and you, and the Indian and the European and the communist, you cut at the very root of this division. Therefore, from that arises the question, can the human mind which has been so conditioned for millennia, can that human mind, which has acquired so much knowledge in so many debates, can that human mind change, bring about a regeneration in itself, and be free to reincarnate now?
Now.
Now.
Yes.
That is the
That's the question.
question.
Exactly. Reincarnate.
Now.
It would appear from what you said that one could say that the vast amount of represented knowledge and accretion of centuries is a discussion we've been having with ourselves, regardless of which culture we're speaking about, as a commentary on this division, without really grasping the division itself.
Yeah.
And of course, since the division is infinitely divisible,
of course, when you divide, go on division.
Then we can have tome after tome after tome, libraries after libraries, more volumes of books without end, because we're continually dividing the division. Yes, I tell you.
And you see, that's why culture is different from civilization. Culture implies growth.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Now, growth in the flowering of goodness.
Lovely phrase. Lovely phrase.
That is culture. Real culture. The flowering in goodness. You understand?
Yes.
And that doesn't exist. We have civilization. You can travel from India to America in a few hours. You have better bathrooms, better this and better that, and so on, with all the complications that you involve. That has been the Western culture which is absorbing the East. So, the goodness is the very essence of culture.
Mm-hmm.
Religion is the transformation of man. Not all the belief churches and the idolatry of the Christians or the Hindus. That's not religion. So we come back to the point. If one sees all this in this world, observes, not condemn it or justify it, just to observe it, then from that one off, man has collected such enormous information, knowledge, and has that knowledge changed him into good, into a culture that make him flower in this beauty of goodness. It has not.
No, it has not.
Therefore, it has no meaning.
Excursions into defining goodness is not going on.
I mean, that you can give explanation, one definition, but that's not definition of not the reality.
No, of course not.
The world isn't the thing. The description isn't the described.
Precisely.
So, we'll come back again.
Yes, let's do.
Because I personally am tremendously concerned with this question. How to change man? Because I go to India every year for 3 months or 5 months, and I see what's happening there, and I see what's happening in Europe, I see what's happening in this country, America. And it's something, I can't tell you what shock it gives me each time I come to this country. The degeneration, the superficiality, the intellectual concepts galore, without any substance, without any basis or ground in which the beauty of something, of goodness, of reality can grow. Now, so saying on that, what place has knowledge in the regeneration of man? That is the basic question.
That's our point of departure. Good. And the knowledge that we have pointed to so far that has emerged in our discussion is a knowledge which in itself has no power to effect this transformation.
No, sir, but knowledge has a place.
Yes, I didn't mean that. I mean, what is expected of this knowledge that we pointed to that is accumulated in libraries is an expectation which it in itself cannot fulfill.
No. Now must go back to the word again. The word knowledge. What does it mean to know?
Well, I have understood the word in the strict sense this way. Knowledge is the apprehension of what is, but what passes for knowledge might not be that.
No, what is generally accepted as knowledge is experience.
Yes, what is generally accepted.
We'll begin with that, because that's what...
Let's begin with what is generally accepted.
Experience, which yields or leaves a mark which is knowledge. That accumulated knowledge, whether in the scientific world, or in the biological world, or in the business world, or in the world of the mind, the being, is the known. The known is the past. Therefore, knowledge is the past. Knowledge cannot be in the present. I can use knowledge in the present.
But it's funded from the past.
Yeah, but it has its roots in the past.
Yes.
Which means, that's very interesting, whether this knowledge which we have acquired about everything.
Yes.
You read any, I personally don't read any of these books. Neither the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, none of the psychological books, nothing. I'm not a reader. I have observed tremendously all my life. Now, knowledge has its place.
Oh, yes.
Let's be clear.
Yes, in the practical order.
Practical, technological. I must know where I'm going.
Precisely.
Physically and so on,
yes.
so on, so
yes.
on. Now, what place has that, which is human experience as well as scientific knowledge, what place has that in changing the quality of a mind that has become brutal, violent, petty, selfish, greedy, ambitious, and all the rest of that? What place has knowledge in that?
Well, going back to the statement we began with, namely that this transformation is not dependent on knowledge, then the answer would have to be it doesn't have the place.
Therefore, let's find out what are the limits of knowledge.
Yes, of course.
Where is the demarcation? Freedom from the known.
Yes.
Where does that freedom begin?
Good. Yes, now I know precisely the point at which we're going to move from.
Yeah.
Where does that freedom begin? Which is not dependent on this funded accretion from the past.
Right. So, human mind is constructed or not.
Yes.
Has evolved through millennia on this accretion, on tradition, on knowledge.
Yes.
It is there. And all our actions are based on that knowledge.
Which by definition must be repetitious.
Obviously.
Of course.
And it is a repetition.
Mm-hmm.
So, what place, what is the beginning of freedom in relation to knowledge. May I put it this way, make
Yes.
myself clear? I have experienced something yesterday that has left a mark. That is knowledge. And with that knowledge, I meet next experience. So the next experience is translated in terms of the old. And therefore, that experience is never new.
So in a way, if I understand you correctly, you're saying that the experience that I had yesterday, that I recall, recollection upon my meeting something new, that appears to have some relationship to it. I approach on the basis of holding my previous knowledge up as a mirror in which to determine the nature of this new thing that I have confronted.
Quite.
Yes. And this could be a rather crazy mirror.
Generally it is. So you see, that's what I mean.
Yes, I follow.
Where is the beginning, or where is freedom in relation to knowledge? Or is freedom something other than the continuity of knowledge?
Must be something other.
Which means there is if one goes into it very, very deeply, it means the ending of knowledge.
Yes.
And what does that mean? What does it mean to end knowledge? Whereas I have lived entirely on knowledge.
It means that immediately.
I mean, see what is involved in itself. I met you yesterday, and there is the image of you in my mind. And that image meets you next day.
Yeah.
The image meets you.
The image meets me.
And I have a dozen images, or 100 images. So the image is the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
The image is the tradition.
Mm-hmm.
The image is the past. Now, can there be freedom from that?
If this transformation that you speak of is to happen, is to come to pass, there must be.
Of course, therefore, how is we can state, but how is the mind which thrives, acts, functions on image, on knowledge, on the known?
Mm-hmm.
How is it to end that?
Yes.
How am I? No, take this very simple fact. You insult me or praise me. That remains a knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
With that image, with that knowledge, I meet you. I never meet you. The image meets you.
Exactly.
Therefore, there is no relationship between you and me.
Yes, because between us, this has been interposed.
Obviously.
Yes.
Therefore, how is that image to end? Never to register. You follow?
I can't depend on someone else to end it for me.
Therefore, what am I to do? How am I? How is this mind, which is registering, recording all the time, is the brain, function of the brain is to record all the time. How is it to be free of knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
When you have done some harm to me, personally or collective, whatever it be, you have insulted me, you have flattered me. How is the brain not to register that? If it registers, it's already an image. It's a memory. And the past then meets the present. And therefore there's no solution.
Exactly.
I was looking up that word the other day in a very good dictionary, tradition. It means, of course, all the word tradare is to give, hand over, give across. But it also has another peculiar meaning, not peculiar, from the same word, betrayal.
Oh, yes, traduce.
Traduce. And in discussing in India, this came out, betrayal of the present. If I live in tradition, I betray the present.
Yes, I do see
Which
that.
is knowledge betrays the present.
Which is, in fact, a self-betrayal.
That's right.
Yes.
So, how is the mind, which functions on knowledge, how is the brain, which is recording all the time,
Yes.
to see the importance of recording and not let it move in any other direction? That is, let me put it this way. Very simply, you insult me, you hurt me by word, gesture, by an actual act. That leaves a mark on the brain, which is memory.
Yes.
That memory is knowledge. That knowledge is going to interfere in my meeting you next time. Obvious. Now, how is the brain, and also the mind, how is the brain to record and not let it interfere with the present?
Well, the person must, it seems to me, take pains to negate.
I don't know. See what is implied. I know, but see, how am I to negate? How is the brain whose function is to record, like a computer is recording?
I didn't mean to suggest that it negates the recording, but it's the association, the translation of the recording into an emotional complex.
How is it? That's just the point. How is it to end this emotional response when I meet you next time, who have hurt me? That's the problem.
That's the place from which we, in the practical order, in our relation to ourselves, must then begin.
Yeah.
Exactly. There is an aspect of this that interests me very much in terms of the relation between the theoretical and the practical.
So, to me, theory has no reality.
Well, let me put it this way.
Theories have no importance to a man who is actually living.
May I say what I mean by theory? I don't think I mean what you think I mean by it. I mean theory in the sense of the Greek word theoria, spectacle. What is out there that I see. And the word is therefore very closely related to what you've been talking about in terms of knowledge. And yet it is the case that if we see something, that something is registered to us in the mind in terms of a likeness of it. Otherwise, we should have to become it in order to receive it, which in the material order would annihilate us. It seems to me, if I followed you correctly, that there's a profound confusion in one's relationship to that necessity for the finite being and what he makes of it. And insofar as he's making the wrong thing of it, he's in desperate trouble and can only go on repeating himself. And in such a repetition, increasing despair. Have I distinguished this correctly?
You see, religion is based on tradition. religion was propaganda, as it is now. In India, here, anywhere, propaganda of theories, of beliefs, of idolatry, worship. Essentially based on the acceptance of a theory.
Yes. Yes.
Essentially based on an idea.
A statement or postulate.
I mean, they're
Oftentimes.
ideas put out by thought.
Right.
And obviously, that's not religion. And then they have, so religion as it exists now is the very denial of truth.
Yes, yes, I'm sure I understand you. Mm-hmm.
And if a man like me or like wants to find out, discover what the truth is, he must deny the whole structure of religion as it is, which is idolatry, propaganda, fear,
yes,
division, your Christian army, all that nonsense, and be a light to oneself. Not in the vain sense of that word, or light, because in darkness, the world is in darkness. And a human being that has to transform himself has to be a light to himself. And light is not lit by somebody else.
So there's a point at which he must stop repeating himself. Is that correct?
Okay.
In a sense, we could use the analogy perhaps from surgery. Something that has been continuous is now cut.
Yes.
And cut radically. Not just fooled around.
So
really cut.
We haven't time to fool around anymore.
Exactly.
The house is on fire. At least I feel this enormous, that things are coming to such a pass, we must do something, each human being. Not in terms of better houses, better security, more this and that, but basically to regenerate himself.
But if a person believes that in cutting himself from the secretion, that he is killing himself, then he's going to resist that idea.
Of course, of course. Therefore, he has to understand what his mind has created. Therefore, he has to understand himself.
So he starts observing
himself,
which
is the world.
Yes. Not learning 5 languages to be able to construe.
That's all. No.
Yes. Yes,
I've been to schools where you learn sensitivity and all that rubbish.
The point that you're making, it seems to me, is made also by the great Danish thinker Kierkegaard, who lived a very trying life in his own community, because he was asking them, it seems to me, to undertake what you're saying. He was saying, look, if I go to seminary, and I try to understand what Christianity is by studying at my desk, then what I'm doing is appropriating something here. But then when do I know when I've appropriated it fully? I shall never know that point, and therefore I shall forever appropriate it and never do anything about it as such, as a subject. The person who must risk the deed, not the utterance of what someone has said before. Or not simply thinking through what someone has thought before, but actually embodying the meaning through the observation of myself in relation to that.
Right.
And that has always seemed to me a very profound insight. But one of the ironies of that is, of course, in the academy, we have an endless proliferation of studies in which scholars have learned Danish in order to understand it more. And what they're doing is, to a large extent, if I haven't misjudged the spirit of much that I've read, is simply perpetuate the very thing he said should be cut. I do have this very strong feeling that profound change would take place in the academy, of which you know I am a member, if the teacher were not only to grasp this that you've said, but take the risk of acting on it. Since if it isn't acted on, if I've understood you correctly, we're back again where we were. We have toyed with the idea of being valiant and courageous, but then we have to think about what's involved before we do, and then we don't do. We think and don't do.
Therefore, sir, the world is not the thing. The description is not the described. And if you are not concerned with the description, but only the thing what is, then we have to do something. When you are confronted with what is, you act. But when you are concerned with theories and speculations and belief, you never act.
So there isn't any hope for this transformation, if I've understood you correctly. If I should think to myself, that just sounds marvelous. I am the world, and the world is me, while I go on thinking that the description is the described. There is no hope. So we're speaking about a disease over here, and we're speaking about something that has been stated as the case. And if I take what has been stated as the case, as the case, then I'm thinking the description is the described, and I never get out.
Sir, it's like a man who is hungry. Any amount of description of the right kind of food and the beauty of the food will never satisfy. He's hungry, he wants food. So all this implies, doesn't it, sir? Several things. First, can there be freedom from knowledge? And knowledge has its place. Can there be freedom from the tradition as knowledge?
From the tradition as knowledge, yes.
Can there be freedom from this separative outlook? Me and you, we and they, Christian, all this divisive attitude or activity in life. Those are the problems we have to.
That's what we must attend to as we move through our dialogue.
Yes. So first, can the mind be free from the known? I mean, not verbally, but actually.
Well, actually,
and
yes.
Then I can speculate about what is freedom, what is all the rest of it. But see the necessity, the importance that there must be freedom from the known. Otherwise, life becomes repetitive, continuous, superficial scratching. It has no meaning.
In our next conversation together, I hope we can begin where we've just left off.
Krishnamurti, in dialogue with Dr. Alan W. Anderson. J. Krishnamurti was born in South India and educated in England. For the
What we said 2 years ago,
Right, except back then you didn't have this Ukraine situation, although now we're learning that even under the last president, Poroshenko, they may have been an ask for the Bidens. So Tom Steyer, thank you very much for making the argument for your campaign tonight, dealing with what happened with one of your workers, and always a pleasure to have you on Primetime. Chris, thank you for having me. All right, look, there's no question that the Democratic field is unsettled. I don't know that it's in crisis, but here's what we do know. Here was and is fairly obvious what happened in Ukraine. That's why we're seeing not one but two attempts to distract from the obvious ahead of the all-important impeachment hearings next week. So in the argument, we're going to identify, clarify, and demystify the efforts afoot. Next.
To reveal what's really in the news and the world around you. This is The Weekly.
When rapper T.I. talked on a podcast about his 18-year-old daughter's visit to the doctor, he unleashed an international talking to about values, virginity, myths, and misogyny. Davey Nicholson explained.
Before this week, T.I. was known for his music career. That was before he uttered these words about his 18-year-old daughter on this podcast.
We have yearly trips to the gynecologist to check her height.
Oh, hey, I'm done with you right now.
So, yeah.
Do you know what for the president?
Yes, I go with that.
But it's no laughing matter.
I was like, what? No.
It also struck a nerve at Toronto's Women's Hospital.
So the virginity examination in itself is unvalid, and in fact, by the World Health Organization, was eliminated or is not condoned.
Gynecologist Yolanda Kirkman says she's only ever had someone ask to inspect their daughter's hymen once.
In Canada, a parent cannot demand this information. It would have to come with consent from the patient. But first of all, these types of examinations would not be done.
Supporting a daughter's visit to the doctor can be a part of sex-positive parenting, but this expert says not in this case.
Accompany your daughter to the gynecologist to ensure this social construct that is imaginary, that is what we call virginity, that is full of shame and stigma and fear. And so that, to me, would also create an environment where that doesn't tell your daughter that she's safe to come to you about when she does decide to have her sexual debut.
And over at Planned Parenthood, where thousands of young women get sexual health services, the organization says youth are absolutely welcome to bring a parent, friend, or other person that they trust with them to their appointment if they choose, but the decision is ultimately theirs. A decision T.I.'s daughter evidently didn't get to make. But at 18, maybe that's about to change. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
And after the break, a sudden shift in a piece of Canadian history, the story behind the Niagara Scalp and the renewed efforts to preserve it.
CIBC Aventura. Hi, we're thinking about going to Morocco.
Oh, great choice. There's so much to see and do here.
Temazul is very cool.
They'll give you a good price. History hasn't changed for centuries.
Wow.
And if you want a once-in-a-lifetime experience,
it's gonna be hard to top this one.
Plan your perfect trip with an Aventura travel assistant. Aventura, the traveler's travel card. For over 4 generations, the Lavazza family has perfected the art of blending coffee for a smooth and balanced taste of Italy. Lavazza. It's how you say coffee in Italian.
Spend a little love today. Spend a little love.
Philadelphia cream cheese, proudly made in Canada with no artificial flavors or colors, makes your recipes their holiday favorites. The holidays are made with Philly.
Discover new San Pellegrino Essenza, a twist of Mediterranean flavors with the gentle bubbles of San Pellegrino. Add a twist of flavor. San Pellegrino Essenza, tastefully Italian. Hashtag vacay.
Sonoma, I want wine with lunch.
It's 11 a.m., Sydney.
Thanks, Captain Obvious.
Don't hate like their trip. Book yours with Hotels.com and get rewarded basically everywhere. Hotels.com. Be there, do that, get rewarded.
QuattroTires.com. Shop your tires online at the best prices with fast shipping to your door anywhere in Canada. This winter, get up to $80 back when you buy 4 selected Puma tires. Shop tires online. QuattroTires.com. KFC's Lay's Barbecue Tenders. It's the collab you've been waiting for. Crispy tenders, hand-breaded and delicious Lay's barbecue chips. Try them before you can't. Only available in Canada.
News sites in Canada and the US to Britain and Japan are transfixed by a twisted heap of rusted iron perched at the top of Niagara Falls. And Nick Purton reveals why the Niagara Falls scow has the world's attention.
From shore, it's hard to even make out what it is. But that's the Niagara scow. Nobody paid all that much attention to it until last week, when for the first time in 100 years, it moved. It crept closer to the falls. That story went around the world. But what I'm here in Niagara Falls to find out is whether this rusted hunk of metal is really something we should care about.
So tell me where I moved. We're looking about this way here, about 50 yards, and then the current wind picked it up, spun it, and tipped it over to where it sits now.
Kip Finn takes me as close as you can get to the scow. For his whole life, the wreckage has been a reminder how his great-grandfather risked his life out there 100 years ago.
When the scow moved, what did you think about it? I didn't believe it at first, so I had to come down here and take a look. And yeah, it was heartbreaking. You say heartbreaking, well, why heartbreaking? Because it's like the only monument that we can attach William Red Hill Sr. to in the area. There's nothing else down here.
August 1918. The scow breaks free from a tugboat and heads toward the falls with 2 men on board. Miraculously, the boat gets hung up on the rocks above the brink. But now the 2 men are stuck with no way to get to shore. Ropes are shot to the scow, but they get tangled. Enter Kip's great-grandfather, William Red Hill Sr.
He stepped forward, he volunteered and said, I'll go up. And he did. He went out there, he had to climb hand over hand in certain areas to untangle the ropes. So he's dangling above the water.
The man dangling just above the falls, William Red Hill Sr., he just returned from fighting in the First World War. He survived that, and here he was putting his life on the line again.
I don't think he was scared at all. I don't think he'd want to be anywhere else than hanging over that river, trying to save those guys, doing whatever he had to do to get out there and save those guys. And he did, and he was pulled back to the rooftop over here behind us, and to a round of applause. And stories say that the firemen kind of, tossed him up in the air when he got back over there. So it would have been a really neat thing to see. It's too bad there's nothing on video or anything like that, but yeah, it would have been something to see.
And for 100 years, the scow didn't move. When it finally did, it brought the story back. And all week, people have been coming here to look at the scow. People like Patrick Sirianni.
Sir, how come you're looking at the
Hey,
scow?
how you doing? Nice. Well, it's a very important part of our history out there. And it moved the other night. I'd sure hate to see it go and disappear. Because when it disappears, we lose our history. And if it does, I'm going to go down to the whirlpool and pick up a piece, get a souvenir, and give it to the History Museum. So at least we'll have something.
That's not enough for Kip. He wants a permanent memorial to his great-grandfather down here by the river.
I won't be happy until he's recognized. I don't want him to be forgotten. He's family. I never met him, but that's my great grandfather, and I'm proud of him. What would you like to say to him? Thank you.
When you see it from the shore, it may not look like much, but I'm with Kip. The story of Red Hill Sr. and what he did out there, that shouldn't be forgotten. Nick Purton, CBC News, Niagara Falls.
That is a heck of a story. Okay, up next, this photo was about to win a big cash prize until
the fire chief decided to withdraw from the contest. We'll tell you why in a moment.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Stephen King's Dr. Sleep. Now playing.
Oh no, where's my credit card? I had it when I ordered pizza. Did it fall into my pocket at the mall? Did that bow tie guy behind me pick it up? Oh, I can hear him with his buddies now. It's on me, fellas! Not today, bow tie guy. Not today.
Who's bow tie guy?
See you later.
Spending on my credit card? Do you mean this credit card?
And
It was in the car.
With the TV app, you're in